Today on Locked On Red Wings, we definitely talk about a real hockey game that certainly happened this weekend.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty, also host at Locked On Tigers, finally getting some news to talk about with maybe not some deals getting brokered. You don't look confident.
No. We talk about it on today's show, but I am there's not going to be a deal done by the imaginary deadline to start the season on time. It's not going to happen.
That's the key word, imaginary deadline. Really, that deadline was a threat.
Correct. Yes. People need to realize that there's no like court. It's like, oh, it has to be done by the 28th or else no season. It's just a deadline the owners literally just fabricated out of the air. We're like, this is in 95, actually. We have a hockey game to get to, but in 95, actually, there was a strike at the end of 94 that went all the way to 95, and they got the deal done like 5 or 6 days after the fabricated deadline to start the season on time. They still played 162 that year because, again, it's not a real deadline. So a little bit of hope there for you. Tyler Madison interview also Friday.
Well, we need a little bit of hope really because the Red Wings are not providing any of that.
No.
Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. Also, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts.
BetOnline.
It's early for that one. That comes later, Scotty. That's going to come later.
I say it every time I hear the word BetOnline.
It just triggers that instinct in you.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm blaming this 100% on the ice. I'm just going to say the ice sucked or something because the Pistons played before. I'm going to say the Pistons ruined the ice.
I thought you were about to say, I'm blaming this 100% on you. That's what I thought you were going to say.
I mean, I can. I'm just going to say the ice was horrible, and so everyone sucked.
There was a little bit of slipping and sliding around. There was a couple of blown tires. But
I mean, they're playing on ice.
All right, move on. Get to your next. That's ridiculous. You're so ridiculous.
Yes. Red Wings fell 10-7 to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
It doesn't get any less funny. It's been 2 days now since it happened when we're recording this. Well, I guess it's been a day. It doesn't lose its amusement or its shock factor.
Well,
10-7.
The defense and the goaltending gets worse in every single match we play against Toronto. In the first game these two teams played, it was 5-4. In the second game, 7-4. This time, 10-7. Toronto scores more goals, and granted, the Red Wings do too, every single time both these teams play. And Scotty, I'm almost at a loss for words on where to start and like what to even like how to even break down what a horrendous, but also at the same time, a highly entertaining game. Highly entertaining for like all the wrong reasons, but like it was fun. But also, you're going. This is like I've seen men's league games with better goaltending and better defense. It's horrid.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. I genuinely don't.
Let's start. Like, you want to just start with the elephant in the room, the goaltending?
Sure. Yeah, might as well. Yeah, let's do that. Let's knock goaltending out of the. Honestly, we could spend the whole first on goaltending, the whole second on defense, and the whole third on offense if we really wanted to.
There we go. Now we have a show breakdown. Take it away, Scotty.
All right. Goaltending. Also, did you notice I switched mics mid-episode? That was slick of me.
I did not notice, so that was very slick.
Yeah. So, goaltending. No one's going to come on here and say that the goaltending in a game in which you gave up 10 goals was good, because it was far from good. It was rough. Okay, I almost just said Mrazek. Ned looked rough.
That was rough too.
Every goalie on both teams looked rough. Both starters got pulled. Ned got pulled and then put. What was the last time you saw someone get pulled and then put back into the game?
Never.
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head.
What are we talking about? I can't remember a time, at least in Red Wing. I genuinely can't remember the last time that happened. So I'm sure someone in the comments will let us know, but I genuinely cannot remember the last time that happened. So it wasn't good. That being said, I don't think it was 10 goals against bad. Does that make sense? The defense was putrid, man. And I guess if we want to do like breakdown, if we want to do it the way that I just said, we'll get
really
to that
go
in a
hand
second.
in hand, man.
That was, and it's easy to say this because we gave up 10, but that was genuinely one of the worst defensive performances by a team that I have ever seen in my life. That the Detroit Red Wings organization should write a handwritten apology to everyone who plays a defensive position at any level in the entire state of Michigan. Brian, you should have a letter in your mailbox tomorrow saying, we are so sorry that we tried to pass this off as defense. It was mythical how bad it was. It was like a unicorn.
No, it was horrible from the start. I mean, was the first or second shot in the game? It was
40 seconds into the game.
Nedeljkovic had squared up a shot from the right side, and he didn't make the save. It was a beautiful shot from Nylander. Absolutely no denying that. But that was a medium danger shot. Nedeljkovic had the opportunity to make the save. He did not. Not taking away the shot quality from Nylander. It was an absolute snipe. But that was a shot he needed to make, and it was getting the game off on the wrong foot. And it continued to fall from there. I mean, it was 3-1 after the first. After the second, it was 6-2. And yes, so both are true at the same time. Defense was horrible. You look at that heat map. We talk heat maps here. You know what? Horrible. I'm going to share it. So if you're on YouTube, you actually get to see this.
There you go. That's actually sick. It was horrid, dog.
Look at this heat map. And this is all of the goal. Like
what website are you using, by the way?
Natural Stat Trick.
There you go.
And you can see this is in all scenarios. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals that took place right in the slot. So right then and there, that is not your goaltending. Like that's your goaltending is not the capital reason why those shots were getting taken. The defense is allowing for 6 shots to be taken from that area, and one of those was on the penalty or the power play for the Detroit Red Wings.
Yep.
The Maple Leafs were on the penalty kill when they got one of those goals,
and it was a 1-goal game.
It was a 1-goal game. It
was 7-6.
So the goaltending was horrible across the board, and we haven't even talked about Toronto's horrible goaltending because we're the Locked On Red Wings, and we will talk about Toronto's horrible goaltending because that's what brought the Red Wings back into this game. But when you're talking about this game and why it was so close, it was close because the Red Wings had horrible defense, horrible goaltending, and a couple horrible forward lines, but the Maple Leafs really had just horrible goaltending. Yes. I mean, the Maple Leafs put up 10 goals on you, and they completely outshined you the entire game. You got a stretch of 5 minutes in the third period where you exposed a goaltender. They switched him out for another goaltender who struggled as well. That was all goaltending for Toronto. But for Detroit, it was everything. Everything broke down.
And I think one of the most frustrating parts of this is this is a blatantly obvious statement. This is a thanks Captain Obvious moment. But
hit me with it.
When you scored 7 and lost by 3, like what are we doing? Like what? Like the offense had honestly the whole game, especially in, like you said, in that 5-minute stretch in the third, but the offense looked solid. Most like the top line especially looked really solid most of the game. It was getting some opportunities. I guess maybe not the first period. The first period was just all horrible. It was all horrible.
Well, you had Mitch Marner in the second score a natural hat trick.
Right.
And it's the second time the Leafs have scored a hat trick on you this season.
Yep.
Marner finished with 4. There's so much. Dude, this game, So we talked about with the Colorado game, and I got to get to this read in a second, but we talked about the Colorado game, that being like hyperbolic of the best and the worst of the Red Wings. This was like, we talked that if that was hyperbolic, the game against Colorado, what do you call this?
Yeah. No,
Like,
this was because the thing all year has been they have had horrid defense. The defensive core has been brutal. The goalie situation for the first half of the season was pretty solid, and now since 2022 happened has just kind of fallen off a cliff.
Yeah.
And the offense has a top line that's very productive and has great moments, a second line that for the most part of the season has been really solid, but the offense has been kind of pick and choosy. It has some nights where it's really solid. It has some nights where it goes cold. And when it goes cold, the defense pretty much will never make up for that. So this was, you scored 7 goals in an NHL hockey game, and you lost by 3. That is it's spot on what this season has been.
I genuinely think that the reason why this team's defense is so weak is because they're not eating Built Bars to strengthen themselves.
I saw it coming from a mile away. You didn't fool me. It was slick though.
This is the time of year where pretty much everyone, including the Red Wings defense, has given up on their New Year's resolutions, but not this year. This year, we're going to make them stick to it by eating right, thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really resolution because they actually taste so good. And have you tried those puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. They're low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories, but not those Built Bars. They contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. They got tons of delicious flavors like mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If you think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It will be delicious, and it'll be good for you. At Built.com, they know all about the taste. They make it delicious first and then figure out how to make it healthy after. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Ooh, I like that. Changing the game up in here. Scotty, continuing this conversation on that 10-7 loss against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Never gets easy saying that. Talking about the goaltending, let's shift gears and talk about this. We kind of touched on it, like mentioned it, but the goaltending for Toronto Maple Leafs was not any better. There was no goaltender in this game. Guys, there was no goaltender in this game that had an over 80 save percentage. So when we say goaltending was horrible across the board, it's true. And when we say both is true, the defense for the Wings was bad and the goaltending for the Wings was bad. Those are both true at the same time, but the goaltending for the Leafs was bad, especially in that third period.
Yeah, it was rough, man. It was really rough. And Mrazek came in, and you were kind of like, all right. Like,
here we go.
Here we go. Mrazek back in Detroit. He's gotta stay it on his head and ruin our night or something. And then we got a quick little something off, and then Toronto ended up, scoring what, 2-3 unanswered. So, all for naught. But
you entered the third period down by 5 goals.
You had a 5-goal period. And you lost by 3. You had a 5-goal third period. Just ignore the other team stats. If you were to tell anyone, hey, you're going to score 5 in the third tonight and lose by 3, you would get laughed at. That is 5-goal third period. You lost by 3. Unbelievable.
But that's what really encapsulates how bad Jack Campbell was in that third period, where we talk about
Michigan native.
We talked about We don't want to talk about that right now with his stats going right in the direction they're going. We talk a lot about high danger, medium danger, and low danger shots. So Alex Nedeljkovic faced a total of 10 high danger shots against in this game, making 6 saves, allowing for 4 goals. Usually when there's a lot of high danger shots, that means your defense isn't doing a good job. Jack Campbell was the opposite in this game. He faced 12 low danger shots against and allowed 3 low danger goals against. And those were the 3 goals that got him pulled in the third period. He just fell apart. His low danger save percentage was .750. So, and if let's go right back to that heat map, pull it back up, look at the Detroit Red Wings side of things this time. Look at where these goals are coming from. We had 2 in the slot. Goal here, goal here, goal. We had a goal along the left boards that went in, a goal along the goal line and along the right boards that went in, and 2 outside the slot that went in.
That was a shot, by the way.
That
angle is crazy.
So this just shows you how bad the goaltending was for the Toronto Maple Leafs, where on the other hand, yeah, the goaltending was bad for the Wings, but it was also all defense, not being able to get anyone out of that slot. So when you compare and contrast these 2 performances, it really shows you the difference that it was mostly just horrible goaltending in the third, because a lot of these shots, there were some really good shots, but a lot of these shots for the Red Wings in the third period were just like hope and a prayer. You cross the blue line, getting into the zone, you take a shot on net, and it goes in.
No, and that's the cool thing about having all this information and stuff nowadays, that you can really pinpoint the difference between those, because you're right, and the Toronto's got a hell of a roster, man. They really do. I mean, that they get clowned on. I'm gonna keep clowning on them. I'm never gonna stop clowning on them. They got a hell of a roster. You know what I'm saying? And
it's a great roster that loses in the first round every year.
Right, exactly. Damn right. And our former host Nolan tweeted when we came back and it was 7-6. He tweeted, "Toronto's treating this like a playoff game." Hilarious.
That's great.
But they, like you said, we had one of the worst defensive displays I've ever seen from a professional hockey team in my entire life. And they had just abysmal goaltending specifically. And they bring Mrazek in. It doesn't really help. They just score more. Like that, you know what I mean? Like we can talk about good, bad defense, whatever, but at the end of the day, if you're putting up 10, that you can afford some pretty rough goaltending if need be.
Let's talk about those defensemen specifically. And specifically, we talked about the other day DeKeyser and Lindstrom becoming a pair, and maybe DeKeyser will be serviceable in the third pair with Gustav Lindstrom, because maybe that mentality of having a young guy would help. It did not really rear its head in this game. They compared for the worst Corsi expected goals for percentage on the team. This past game, let's see here. Gustav Lindstrom had the second worst expected goals for percentage at 16. Remember, you want to be at 50 or above to be, considered effective. His relative was -25. Danny DeKeyser was just above him at -23 relative, with an expected goals for percentage of 18. That is putrid. Absolutely horrendous.
You got to realize that when you start getting into like the low 40s, high 30s, that's like alarmingly bad. That's like, hey, this is not working. They were in the teens, dog.
Yeah. I'm looking at their goals against at 5-on-5, and a big part is Lindstrom and DeKeyser were out there for 3 goals against and not a single goal for. You get a guy like Luke or like Dylan Larkin, your captain, who's going to play the most minutes on offense, understandably so, who had also a below average expected goals for percentage. He was at 44.44 because he was out there for 5 goals against. And that sounds alarming until you see, he was also out there for 4 goals for. So, yeah, he was out there for 5 goals against, but 9 total goals. He's producing
everybody
offense.
Was out there for 4 goals against.
That's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. Lucas Raymond and Gustav Lindstrom, or not Lucas Raymond, I keep saying it for some reason. Gustav Lindstrom and Danny DeKeyser were out there for 3 goals against, and that was it. They didn't provide anything productive. Dylan Larkin, almost said it again. Dylan Larkin was at least out there for 4 goals for producing offense because defense had all been abandoned in this game. You know, you look at Dylan Larkin's relative. Yeah, his 4 percentage was, 44 in this game. But at least his relative was positive to his teammates. It's just some of these players. It was just a horrible game, man.
It was so bad, man. But we'll get into the Guelph line, I guess, in the third.
I will say though, our boy Moritz Seider
had a little bit of a hiccup there.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
No one was great.
No one was great.
Everybody that attempted to play defense was horrible. I'm not even going to say play defense. Everyone that tried to play defense was terrible.
You know what that game was? Was a stat pad game. Unless you're a goaltender, unless your stats just got demolished.
Yeah, certainly wasn't on.
I'm looking at the box score and I'm like, everybody got points in this game.
Oh,
it was like genuinely, but everyone was like a -3.
Mark Stahl had a point or two.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
You know what else is crazy? BetOnline.
BetOnline.
Wasn't even subtle. Football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it is not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC. Odds right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use mobile device or learn about the trends and action. BetOnline.
BetOnline.
Where the game starts. Scotty, I was talking about the offense a little bit, how it was about a stat padding game before I went to that BetOnline.net read. And there, your top forward line was a positive impact. But you know who else was there was another forward line that was a really good positive impact in this game, and I cannot figure out how they managed to do this. It was the Carter Rowney line.
Hell yeah.
They had 9 minutes of ice time in this game, the least amount of anyone because they're the fourth line. Their expected goals for percentage was 63.41%. That means when their line was on the ice, they were taking 63% of the quality shots that were being had on the ice. They were taking 63% quality shots, were only receiving, 20 whatever against. It's
right.
Like what? 30 whatever against.
They also, that line got matched up with the Matthews line a couple of times in the second.
Which just makes it so bizarre.
Right. Like that's not for nothing either.
They're relative to their teammates. So when their line was on the ice, they were a positive 23 scoring chances for compared to the other lines in that game.
Shout out Carter Rowney, man.
Shout out Carter Rowney, Sam Gagne, and Adam Ernie, man.
Who was it, Ernie?
Yeah, Adam Ernie. But obviously, the #1 thing is the Dylan Larkin line was the one that produced. Lucas Raymond had 2 goals. Dylan Larkin had an assist, extended his point streak to 9 games. With 17 points in that stretch now. Absolutely insane.
Did he get credit for that 1 goal or no?
Who?
Larkin. There's
Larkin
like that weird,
not,
did he tip it in or not? Okay.
No, he did not get credit for that goal. So, I mean, I don't know what to say about the offense. A lot of it was just horrible goaltending on Toronto's part, but there was a lot of depth scoring in this game outside of your top line. So,
yeah,
that's cool, I guess.
I mean, Seider extended his point streak as well. And Mark Stahl's an offensive defenseman. He had his, moments. He had a couple of nice passes in there. Seider had a couple
points. But
yeah, like Hronek was ripping at the net, by the way. Ripping. Just clappers all night. I mean, Seider had a couple of nice assists. Like, for as poorly as everybody played on the defensive end, there was a lot of really good opportunities created on the offensive end from almost everybody.
Well, and you remember I was joking at the Colorado game. I was like, defense is optional. That was literally this game.
It wasn't optional. It was passed.
Yeah, they just were
optional. At least is every time down the ice, you're like, oh, am I going to play D? Yes or no? This was defense. I tweeted one of the replies was actually this is my reply of the week. or of the weekend. I tweeted out there are no words to describe how poor or how bad the Red Wings defense is or was tonight. And somebody replied and said they just did. And I was like, all right, you know what? No, that's fair. That's accurate.
Dude, the other thing that is bizarre too was the Guelph Storm line that has
Was
so
horrid.
it was horrid in this game,
Horrid.
which is something so strange to me because they played the third most minutes. They basically, they got less minutes than the Joe Veleno line, which produced, some offense in this game.
That was the angle. That Veleno's that angle was nuts on his. Yeah,
it was silky.
Hot Mike. Hot Mike.
Hot Mike. The expected goals for percentage for that Pew Suter Bertuzzi Fabry line was 25 in this game. They were awful the entire game, and I'm not going to look too much into it because they've been great all season long. It was an awful game.
Agreed.
I mean, it was an awful game by the whole team as a whole. Austin Matthews said after the game, like, I've never been a part of a game like this. It was wild. Jeff Blashill said, like, I'm glad the fans had fun, but we don't look at this as a victory. I think we took it easy during practice. But
yeah, we got to talk. Well, yeah, we'll get to him and those comments at the end.
Well, all I was going to say is, like, man, this game was so offensive oriented, yet it's hard to break down the offense just because it wasn't really like a system being run. It just felt like players scrambling all over the ice, taking shots.
It was a free-for-all.
It was a free-for-all.
On both sides. And Toronto could afford to because there was no resistance on our end. They could just chuck up from wherever. I mean,
I'm glad. I'm sorry. Last thing I was going to say.
Oh, no.
So I'm glad the fans had fun, but that game was unacceptable.
Yeah. Yes, it was unacceptable. You give up 10 goals. Yes, it's unacceptable. Absolutely insanity. I think the last question I want to ask you is this game is a highlight, as we talked about earlier, of everything that has been good, wrong, and ugly with the Wings this season. One game should not change your opinion too terribly much, but when you give up 10 goals, it might. Jeff Blashill, where's your head at with him right now? Do you think that how much weight of this do you think is on his shoulders? And honestly, separately, wild comments after the game to say, yeah, I told the team we were taking it easy in practice and like we were gonna get. What did he say? Like, we were taking it easy in practice, and I told him if they didn't, wake up, we were going to get smacked around.
You can't just turn the switch on.
Right.
My opinion really hasn't changed a whole lot in this one. These types of games don't come around that often. I think the last time this happened was like in the early 90s, and a lot of people will point at that and say, like, that's the reason why I should be fired. Like, it's been since 1993 the Wings gave up 10 goals, and I understand that. But, Blashill's not on the ice playing the game. I mean, if the team doesn't play properly and he warned them during practice, like, you guys are not taking this seriously, that's not on Blashill. Now, it is his job as head coach to make sure the team is ready to play, but there's only so much one man can do. I honestly, Scotty, I don't know the right answer to this question. It's a really good question. And I have been recently, I used to be all like fire Blashill trained, but recently I've been like, you know what? Give him more patience with these young guys, see how it goes. And we've seen fruits of that labor in some regards. Like, he's given Lucas Raymond more, like, put him on the top line immediately and he's flourished. He put Mortside on the top line immediately and flourished. Granted, those guys are one, like, high-end talent, but he's put Philip Zadina on the top line after all those struggles he had, even after scratching him. And, oh, look at that. Now he's playing with more confidence. He's stuck with Joe Veleno, and now he has more confidence. So, yeah, he's not perfect and he hasn't done a lot of things right, but he's also done some things right as well. So I'm not going to look at this one game and skew my opinion and be like, Blashill needs to be fired, because this team has taken strides forward this year, and so have the young guys on this team as well. So I'm not too overly concerned about one horrid performance when overall the team's looking better. But the one thing that has been persistent across Blashill's tenure that worries me is the continued paltry power play and the awful defense. And that is something that has not gotten better. I mean, obviously you can only work with what you got when it comes to the defense, but now you've cycled through, I think you're on your third coach for special teams, and the power play is still the bottom one in the league. And now you have talent on your offense to facilitate a better power play. So really, I'm less worried about this one poor performance, and I'm more worried about the persistent problems the team has had. Now, like I said, they've taken strides in some regard, which I'm happy about, and I'm happy about with Blashill, but it's those troubles that continue to persist that I'm worried about, but I'm also like, okay, well, the team's still trying to get better, so I'm not like, sounding the alarm quite yet.
Sure. I think those are fair points. Like the SpongeBob meme where he's like in the
Which one?
he's in the police outfit and he's got the walkie-talkie and then the missing poster is him.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I view that comment after the game. That's your job.
Yeah.
That's your job. Your job is is to motivate the players to practice hard. And I have never, ever in any sport heard a coach made a comment like that. Ever. Across all ever. Have never heard a coach made a comment like that. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it's the biggest deal in the world, because I mean, again, at the end of the day, they still put up 7, but I think it's a weird comment to make, man. Good or bad, whatever. That's a weird thing to highlight.
Well, and you know what? In some degree, a lot of it, I think, is just the frustration coming out because, he saw it in practice. He's like, you guys aren't taking this seriously, and you're going to play the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, if you guys don't want to lose. So clearly this is like almost like a gotcha moment for him. Like, I told you guys so, and this is what happened. And I'm frustrated. I'm talking about it. I'm not really thinking. Part of me actually, in a twisted way, is like, yeah, call them out. Like, they played like trash. Like, I don't necessarily hate that he called them out, because that's going to be like, you guys sucked, and I'm going to let the world know that this is unacceptable hockey, and I told you guys to take it seriously. But at the same time, you're right. As head coach, it's his job to make sure that they're ready to play. Yeah, and but the team is not ready to play.
You're not dad. You know what I mean? Like, when you're little and like that happens, something like that happens, your dad's like, oh, well, I'm just going to let you learn a lesson. No, these are millionaires playing a competitive game.
Yeah, they're adults.
Your job is not to teach them like life lessons. Your job is not to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to sit back and you guys didn't practice well. You're going to get slapped. And I'm going to come into the next practice and be like, oh, look what I told y'all. Did you learn your lesson, kids? No, you're getting paid a lot of money to coach a team. Your job is to make sure that doesn't happen. That's just such a weird thing to say. And as a whole with the Blashill experience, I've my biggest thing, and I said it a year ago when Nolan and I did an episode about Blashill being the long-term coach through, when this team's competitive again and not. I said it then, and I still believe it. I think that he is an okay NHL coach. He's solid, sure. But I don't think and have never believed that he is the guy to be behind the bench when this team jumps to the next level. I think he has a ceiling. Given this within this organization, I think he has a ceiling to the heights that he can take this team to. And I think we're pretty damn close to that ceiling. And I'm not saying that, the best that this dude can do is whatever we're going to end with 5-7 games under 500, if that's where we end at the end of the season. But I think that we can unlock another level, and certainly young players coming up and everything. Not all that's his fault. Like, there's another level that can be unlocked for this team that I'm not sure he is the guy to be behind the bench in order to do that.
That's fair. That's an incredibly well-spoken point there, Scotty.
I'm a writer.
He is a writer. Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. When you get tomorrow's episode, don't be surprised because, your boy's working the Tyler, the Creator concert tomorrow. It's going to be a late recording. It's going to be an interesting one. Ooh, Lordy. I got a busy week, Scotty.
You do.
Busy week.
That you do.
I got Tyler, the Creator, on Monday, so I won't be getting home till 2 in the morning, maybe later, because he's going to be huge. I got Wings on Tuesday. Got Journey on Wednesday. Tool on Thursday. Pistons on Friday. So, to all our listeners out there, it's going to be a crazy week.
It's going to be a crazy one, baby.
So, let's see how this boy pans out. But regardless of when we record and how tired I am, we ball.
We ball.
We will be back with a new episode tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.